They're warriors. They're strong, resilient, and determined to make a difference in the world. They come from different cultures and walks of life, but they all share a common purpose: to uplift and empower their communities. Welcome to Meet the Tinike, a podcast where we sit down with Indigenous people who are making a positive impact in their communities and beyond. From activists and artists to entrepreneurs and community leaders, these warriors share their wisdom, their experience, and their perspectives on a wide range of topics. Join me as I dive into the diverse and inspiring stories of these remarkable individuals and learn about the challenges they face and the lessons they learned along the way. Today, we're thrilled to have a remarkable individual whose journey and mission are truly inspiring. He's born and raised in Calgary. Jordan Britton has always been proud of his Indigenous heritage. He's a Cree man with roots in Massachusetts, and his educational path led him to St. Mary's University in the South, shaping the foundation for his future endeavors. After earning his degree, Jordan dedicated 6 impactful years of his life as a youth and family counselor, working closely with underprivileged communities. It was through this hands-on experience that Jordan recognized a profound problem in our cities and across the country. Thousands of people were without quality winter coats to depend on. And fueled by his desire to address this issue and his passion for community strength, he launched Warm Social Co. in November of last year. He's a firm believer that community is the backbone of society, something that makes us all stronger, more resilient, and more connected. This belief shines brightly through with his mission at Warm Social Co. It's a company that's not just about warmth in the physical sense, but it's also in the emotional and communal sense. Please join me in welcoming Jordan Britton, a visionary who's warming hearts and lives one coat at a time. Jordan, it's awesome to have you on, man. I've been excited for this for a couple weeks. I know our schedules have been back and forth, but I got you here now, so it's pretty awesome. So can you just let everyone know like a bit about your background and how you grew up and a bit about yourself?
For sure. And also just wanted to take a time to thank you for having me on here. I'm absolutely flattered that you want to talk to me. Hopefully I can provide something interesting to make it worth it. But yeah, happy to be here, man. And thanks for having me. But yeah, so I was born in Calgary, raised in Calgary, ended up moving to Drumheller for about 7 years, junior high, high school, graduated, came back, started getting educated, and went right back to Calgary. So um, I think I consider myself as somebody that's kind of Calgary through and through, with a little bit of those formative years in the small town that definitely helped shape me, made some lifelong friends. Um, but yeah, and then I guess went to St. Mary's University. If we're going on a little bit about me, I think it's, I don't think I'm that interesting of a guy, but like I said, I'll try and make it interesting. Um, High level basketball player. That was my passion. Super competitive. Can be a jerk on the basketball court sometimes. And yeah, so I played 5 years basketball at ACAC for the Lightning. Um, Ended up making some of the all-time record books. Graduated as the top rebounder, scorer, and shot blocker and 3-point shooter in my school, and then 7th all time for the league history. So for 3-point shooting. So I guess that's something that I'm proud of, and that competitive, I guess, fire is something that I don't think will ever go away and is exhibited from time to time on those res tournaments.
That is awesome, man. I knew you were a basketball player because you're a tall dude, right? I seen that somewhere. You're like 6 something,
Yeah,
eh?
6'7" or 5'19".
Oh man, so we're close to the same height, really close. You got the 5 part right. No, that's awesome, man. So do you still, with all that being said, like with basketball, do you still play, like, is there pickup leagues or other leagues or adult leagues, or what
Yeah.
are you doing with that?
So I play Div 1 in Calgary Men's League, which is all former post-secondary players, former pro players. Very, very competitive league. It's the top men's league in Calgary, and that's once a week. And then um, I really enjoy, being a tournament warrior when I can. I can definitely go to a less tournaments now with one kid and then one more baby on the way. But when I can get up to a res tournament, I live for those still. Those are still super fun. Love getting together with the boys. But yeah, I would say that's kind of like at the twilight stages of my time now are 100% worth it. So no complaints here. And when I'm lucky enough to get out to a tournament, I know I'll be a happy guy.
Oh, dude, that's great to hear, and congratulations on the baby on the way, and then yeah, the other young one. I know we were talking earlier about being
Yeah,
young
yeah, it's
dads to
crazy, man.
younger kids. So,
Oh, it's
no,
awesome.
that's deadly, dude. Going back a little bit to school. So how obviously you probably got heavily recruited just because of your basketball skills, and I think the stats speak for themselves. But what did the actual schooling look like, and how did high school go for you? And was it easy to get into college, or did it a lot of work on your end, or how did that go?
Well, I think it required a lot of work, and when I was in high school, I just wasn't really prepared to do that work. So, I mean, like I kind of skirted by and did as much as I needed to do, but not as much as I could do. And then, for whatever reason, super grateful for how my I guess demeanor changed because in university was a different product. I was there. I wanted to be there. I worked hard on the court. I worked hard in the classroom. um, and yeah, I think that I just figured out everything that I needed to line fringe high school graduate where, it wasn't it wasn't like it was I graduated by a long shot. Like I was probably, if we're talking football as a game of inches for me, like I could have 1 more % in a couple classes may have, been the difference in me graduating. And then university, was able to change my tune, found my passion in psychology and social work, and ended up graduating with a 3.7 GPA, which I was finding what I really love to do, and that was, get into the fabrics of our community, with my backing in psychology, and get into some work doing some, work at a mental health agency. So it's been a wild ride, man. And there's some people that might not even recognize me from back in high school, and that's okay. You were alluding to figuring out your own path earlier on as well, and I think that that's one of the beautiful things about life is that you know is up to us. And you know let's make something that we look back on. Let's make that path the one that we're proud of.
Oh, dude, there's a lot to unpackage there, and you nailed it. I'm glad to hear that you found your footing in school or in college and that secondary, because very much the same way as you with high school, I did the bare minimum. Saskatchewan need 24 credits. I had 24. I had a lot of 50s in a lot of those core classes, but they somehow pushed me through. And just being and down the line, I learned about a lot of my learning disabilities, and I got some pretty some fun issues with that. But regardless, that's not an excuse, because now taking that and then doing some applied learning, whether that is secondary or even just with experience and on the job training, I mean, now you can flourish, right? The sky's the limit once you find your passion, and once you find something that really makes everything click in your mind, it just works, right? So you might not be great at some things in
100%.
school, and I do talk to a lot of young ones about that. Is like, you got to do this, you have to get through this schooling, and it kind of, it's just a prerequisite for life, but that isn't handcuff you to everything, right? There's, the sky's the limit after that, and um, you can really
100%. And I
really
think
find
that
your footing.
one of those prerequisites too is like, yeah, like I think school is a prerequisite and something that's 100% needed. But I think that the thing that under, holds that up from underneath that's more important is like the type of like work ethic and all of those intangible like personal skills that are going to be what takes you further, right? Where like I don't think high school necessarily shaped a ton of my like, world views enough to like, make me who I am. But I think that, the lesson that most people got in high school and junior high of like, hey, work hard so that you can do this was something maybe that I was just a little bit delayed with, because then in university I was like, oh, okay, like I might not need this school, and I might not need to know, what the powerhouse of the cell is. It's the mitochondria, by the way. But like, I need to know the work ethic that's going to be able to like bring me forward. I need to work at the things that matter.
Oh, yes. That's exactly it, man. That's so true. And I always take that for granted. And I talk about that with my boys. Well, especially Lennox, he's 6, and I'm pretty lucky because he gets to go to his mushroom and cookums, and they go to the farm. They have a farm out there, but they don't get to grow up on that small farm like I did. Like everyone was just kind of scraping by, and it was all work, right? It was funny. Like I remember like late at night there'd be stuff going wrong, or like the well pump breaks or something happens, right? And like talk to my dad, I'm like, oh well, we should probably call somebody. He just laughs. He's like, well, there's no one to call, buddy. We are that guy. Like we have to
We
fix
are
it,
who we
right? So
call.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's pretty funny in that way. But you're right, man. Work ethic is so much, and I know a lot of the young ones, the a lot of the elders I talk to allude to the young ones really need to look in and figuring that work ethic out. But it all boils down to, role models and what they see, and a lot of modeling. But back again to your education, what happened with university, and what did you, I guess we'll say, like, what do you come out of there with, or what turned out after university?
Yeah, so I ended up getting my bachelor in psychology with a minor in sociology, and then I took that right to social work. So there's a children's mental health agency that requires you to have at least a 2-year certificate or diploma in something before you can continue, like begin working there. So once I had that 2 years in university, I applied there, was fortunate enough to get a job. And then so I'd be working there in the summer times, working there part time when I was in school when I could. And then when I graduated, took that full time. So I feel like I was able to gain some of that experience because I think that one of the barriers that we see here is that when you graduate from university, that they need the degree and then they also need you to have 5 years experience. So um, once I graduated, I think I was up to like 6 years or 5 years of experience. Um, and then I took that and was able to leverage, an even better job where, even more of an impact was possible. So, yeah, like I said, earlier, social work and psychology were my passions, and that was something, like that was a candle burning even in high school. Um, when I wasn't showing up to physics class, I was fired up for psychology and getting those modules done and everything like that. But um, so I think I knew then, and that's why I chose that in university. And I think that in university, then that affirmed it. I was like, hey, this is my choice. This is my passion. This is what I want to do with it. My mom is somebody who's heavily ingrained into social work, so that was always around me growing up. And I was like, okay, this is it. Like, this is my opportunity. This is my chance to live and do what I want to do and live the way I want to live. So yeah, I think that I was fortunate enough to find something that just pulled me in.
That's great, man. And with all that being said, and especially with that work, like all that work experience and real life experience, is that kind of what opened up your eyes to a lot of what you're doing now? And we'll get into what you're doing now, but um, did you see a lot of that, or a lot of those needs in that space that you're at?
100%. And needs couldn't be more of an apt word because the need is something that goes up, and the need there's for so many different things. And so when we look at social work and we look at these programs, um, for whatever reason, the demand, like social work is one of the industries that you hate to see booming. It's one of those industries that you don't want to be seeing as always growing and expanding, and it is. And that's the unfortunate thing is that the demands for these types of things, the demands for the children in our communities, in our cities, um, social work. Like you can't put anything else other than human beings into those settings, um, because it's human beings that can fix and heal and help other human beings grow. So, um, yeah, I don't even remember what the original question is, but yeah, it's social work is something that is unfortunately exploding, and especially when we look at our own communities, you know, our Indigenous communities are massively overrepresented in those social work systems, and so emotional behind data and statistics, one of the most black and white dry things that there are. But when you look at stats and data like that, it's really hard to feel anything but, this fire of emotion.
It is, and I deal with that a lot now daily on just the hard numbers of what we're dealing with and the needs of communities, and then going and finding that funding and working with ISC and other groups to make those come to fruition. And it's yeah, I get smacked with it every day, and it's a real battle because I got to make sure that I'm okay, and like just mentally and emotionally that I'm okay with the day and going through those days, because you see a lot of stuff, man, and it's you see behind the curtain of a lot of things, and it's not good, and it's really ugly. And I always joke about rose-colored glasses. I came into this with thinking I was gonna help every young Indigenous person and get them all through, make great carpenters, make great tradespeople, get more people in the STEM fields, and do all these great things. And once you uh, once you start peeling back that onion of those, every one of those systematic, I don't know, failures almost we'll call them, of just like you start breaking it down really granular, it's it's pretty ugly. And it just take then after that you just have to take one bite at a time and try to pick your battles and get through it. So I'm glad there's more people out there doing this, and I'm glad that you're out there and so passionate about doing this. um, with that being said, I guess we'll kind of jump into what you're doing now. And this is what really got me going after you were suggested to me by a friend of mine, Dan, or Daniel. And it was pretty funny. He's like, yeah, check this guy out. He's doing some great things in Calgary. And then ended up looking at the site, looking at what you're doing, getting behind some backstories. Like, okay, I got to talk to this guy and see what, for one, what drove you and just your background, and just listening to your education and your work experience. It all makes sense now, and on why you're doing what you're doing and how it aligns so well. But yeah, I'll let you speak to that, because this is it's a pretty special thing, and I really want more people to know about it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, man. And I think that, yeah, that was what opened the door to the business. And so in social work, like I said, there's needs everywhere. And one of those needs is that there are people, that hundreds of people that die every year in our country because they don't have adequate resources to, shelter, coats, um, this anything to help survive winter. So it's winter here is a do or die thing. Like you and I are both here. Like we know that winter is something, like a winter coat is something that is an absolute essential. It's not something that you can just bargain and be like, well, I'll just, I don't need one this winter. I'll make it through. Like you need one. And so being in social work, my primary demographic was working with adolescents and youth. And so when I'm talking to these teenagers, and we all know that stereotype of a teenager not wearing a jacket, and you think that it's because that teen is just being tough, or like wants to seem like he's tough to his friends, or but in social work, and like you said, like removing some of those layers and looking behind the curtain, that there's hundreds of families out there that they just can't afford something that's quality and reliable. So that kid's going in with a hoodie or a spring jacket or something lighter and more affordable, or something that was given to them and doesn't fit properly, or all of these different things. And it's like, wow, okay, like this is a very real problem. Looking into, again, I talked about stats earlier, looking into some of those statistics and seeing, is like, oh my goodness, like in our city, in Calgary alone, there are people that die every winter. So when you step outside and you look on the macro into our country, like there's thousands of people. And it's so when I looked at that, I always have been intrigued, to be my own boss, because I do feel like I'm a driven person. I do feel like I kind of have what it takes. I was like, okay, well, I feel like I have that, and I feel like that there's a very real problem here. What can we do about it? And that was kind of what birthed the company. And Warm Social Co. Like, that's everything that we do. Everything we do helps provide winter coats for people in need. The coats themselves are one for one. Every single time a coat is sold, another coat, an equal coat, the exact same coat, not something worse or like less warm or whatever, is given to somebody who doesn't have one, who might be underprivileged or underserved. So, and then we have shirts, hoodies, everything. Like we've been expanding pretty quickly, and I've been extremely grateful for the momentum that we've started to pick up. But at the end of the day, that's what all of those, everything that we sell helps provide more of, is winter coats. And we want to eliminate the number of people that needlessly suffer and look at winter as something as do or die. We want to eliminate that problem and just take that off of the map. So yeah, it's been great. And I think that alluding to something that we talked about earlier too, is community is behind that, because you know, everybody needs help at one point or other. There's not a person alive who has never needed help for anything. So, and we need to come together and help each other, because that might be, that might be me at some point. I might need a help from somebody. I might need a hand. Um, any of us like might be in that situation, right? So that's a problem that I guess that I wanted to put some of the responsibility onto my shoulders and think, okay, like what can we do? What solutions are available? And that was kind of the birth of the company.
Man, that is massive. Again, I'm really big fan of this company now that I know more about it and learning about it, and it's is a definite need, and I am really grateful that there's people out there like you. And again, with community, you touched on it, that we need more of that, and just the way times are, we're really getting away from that. I speak to a lot of old ones or a lot of elders, and yeah, they're mentioning that of feeling really disconnected from the youth, feeling disconnected from their own grandchildren at most times, because they come visit, or if they even do come visit, they're just looking at their phone the whole time, or whatever that looks like, right? And we're really losing connection that way. With the company, did you have partners, or was there any kind of or how did that really kick off, or how did you get that rolling? Just on the entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, so it just came down to myself and a lot of research, and so the company is not just myself anymore. Um, but at the end of the day, it was it's something that I had an idea. I researched into it. Was getting into some manufacturing licenses and where can we get things made, like all of the logistical stuff. And it was it was like late August, like early September. So I was like, I think I'd say most entrepreneurs are pretty have a risk taking and impulsive background, in their kind of persona, and that 100% is me. Because I had people around me, they're like, "Yo, yeah, this is a really good idea. I think you should plan this out a little bit more and like take this year to plan it out." I'm like, "No, no, I'm going like full board with this right now." So I went right to the grindstone. I was working, around the clock, getting all of this stuff done, was able to fully launch in November. And so my reasoning behind that too is like, hey, like even if we can kind of launch and it's not to quite the scale that we want to in its first year because we didn't have enough time in planning, this is still going to be more winter coats onto the backs of people that just don't have any. Like this is a need where we got this curve and it's going up, right? Like I need to do something now. And so I stand by that. Like that decision was, I think, one of the was the biggest decision of the company to date, and everything has been exponential so far. And so we got another big season coming up. Everybody kind of forgets about winter for the the little blink that we have summer for. And but that's kind of like my reasoning behind using the masqua, like the bear, um, for the summer and spring clothing lines, is because we can't just forget about winter just because it's warm out here for 5 seconds. Like we have a job to do. Like I have a job to do. And so that's why I love the bears, because the masqua spends all winter hibernating and then awakens in the spring and summer to get resources together to work its tail off to get all of this together so that it can survive the next winter. And it's not an accident that it survives. It prepares right. The ones who don't die. So for me, it's myself. I was like, okay, I want this mascot to be living through within me so that I can help get all these resources so that by the time winter comes this next season, we're ready. Like we got tons of coats to bring to people who need them so that they can, hibernate and successfully, just like the masqua.
Oh, that's awesome. I seen that collection, and I had to show my wife, because that's what my son, he's one now, but that's his name. His name's Bear Musqua.
I
And
love that.
yeah, so it's pretty awesome. I was like, "Ooh, we're gonna have to get some of this just because." Um But no, everything you said there, man, that makes perfect sense. And it's funny when you're talking about it because I was thinking of that whole analysis paralysis, right? And I used to be really good at that too, of like, well, I'll do it next year, I'll do it next time, or whatever that looked like, and always waiting for the next or waiting for the right time. And you as a young dad, I guess you get that too. Like if you wait to have kids, you're gonna wait forever, right? Like there's no
Hmm.
right time to do any of this stuff. So that's awesome that you're able to jump in with both feet and get this thing rolling and it's moving, man. It's awesome to see. Um, Within the company, like as you're talking, like is there do you have people working with you now, like right beside you, or how is it a remote? Do you have is it what am I trying to say? Do you have like a remote people working for you? Is there something local? How does that look?
So yeah, right now I would say that the majority of the work is something that I'm doing. Like I'm doing all the behind the scenes work, um, closing contracts on digital marketing because I cannot do that myself. Like that's something that, I'm trying to do, but it's just, I'll stick to what's more in my wheelhouse, I guess. Um, and so stuff like that, where like I am working behind the scenes. And then so my wife also, she's putting close into like full-time hours as well into this thing, and so into those like the market sales and setup and a bunch of that. And then I ended up hiring a seasonal employee to help with some of the markets and stuff like that, because as things grow and start to expand, I'm not going to just sit there and pretend that I'm able to just juggle everything and still make everything work and turn out exactly as it has the potential to. So as we expand, I think that the team will expand too. So right now it's kind of like more of a close knit operation, um, but yeah, we'll see what ends up happening down the pipeline, because you know um, we have a problem, and with how big of this problem is, I don't think we can fully solve it while just having the little team that we have.
No, absolutely, man, and that's great to hear, and I'm glad you're out there in the markets, and we'll talk more about it near the end, but just to how people can get a hold of you and where they can find you and the things you're up to. But uh, switch gears a little bit on you though, like with the whole entrepreneurial journey that you're on, and just everything you're doing. Was there anyone that really stands out to you as kind of a mentor or as a leader or someone that you looked up to and help in this direction, or are you just kind of jumping in both feet and hoping for the best?
Yeah. Well, in terms of like role models, I'd say like the only real role model that I have is my mom. And she's not an entrepreneur. She's kind of, similar to my wife in the sense where like they're both like, whoa, okay, maybe don't take this risk. Maybe just stick this, like, you got a good job right now. Maybe just continue going with that. Whereas like, so I almost have to kind of go against that grain a little bit. But I do have some friends who are very successful entrepreneurs. Um, sort of impact on me, because I think I have you know a friend who's like very dear to me, who has launched his own company doing his own thing, and he's worked tirelessly at it for 2 or 3 years, and it's paying off. Like he's absolutely flourishing. I have some other friends that are doing something similar, so I'm like, okay, like this is something that's absolutely possible. And I think that there's almost a beauty in that challenge, and beauty in the challenge of going on. Let's do something. I think that people who create things and are passionate about what they're creating are only going to do good things.
Wow, man. That's pretty that's pretty deadly, and yeah, definitely the mom, hey. Always a strong one.
Hmm.
Uh I guess I don't know if you want to talk about her at all or a whole lot, but I mean, what did that look like when you were young? Did you have we never talked, but did you have siblings, or was she working all the time, or was that just someone that led by example that you got to watch, or did she have some deep heart one-to-one talks with you? I always romanticize that because I wish I had those back in the day, but I always just watched, right? I learned from osmosis of these people just working their hands to the bone just to get by, and a lot of
Hmm.
work ethic came that way. But what that look like for you?
Yeah, well, I'd be interested to hear more about your story too. Um, but yeah, I think that my mom was just like a superhero. Really, when I look back and some of those things that you don't have an appreciation for when you're younger, because you just can't even conceptualize anything. You're a kid, and then once you grow up, you're like, oh, wow, again, yeah, okay, I'm looking behind the curtain. That's what was going on. So when I look back at like my childhood, like she's someone who she wasn't university educated. She had her high school diploma, and that was it. And she worked 3 jobs. So she had a job at the bagel shop, she had a job at the burger joint, and she had, like, another job doing, something else, but I forget the 3rd one, but there was 3, and then so we were going to daycare, and then in between that too, she decided, like, "Okay, like, I have 2 kids, I need to be able to provide while also being, like, a mom as well," and she actually went to university, and I remember I was, like, probably, like, 6 years old at her university grad, and social work and to a mental health agency, and seeing and then she just started climbing ladders, rung after rung, and ultimately ended up being able to provide for 5 children, um, while also, yeah, like doing it her way, be not missing a beat as a parent. I don't think that I could even recall one thing that she missed, because of that. So to see that her priorities were always us as her children, um, thinking, like, if I was put in her exact same shoes, I'm like, dang, like, would I be able to pull that off? Because, like, the magnitude of what she did, I think, is just so impressive to me, because she didn't have anybody else to rely on, anybody to help her out. She just, she put the team on her back, and she carried us to the finals.
Wow. That's some leadership for you. So you got one of the best mentors right there. That's amazing, man. That's awesome to hear, and it's awesome to see now. I'm sure she's proud as, right? Because now she gets to see a lot of those the fruits of her labor now finally paying off, and seeing all her young ones really flourishing. So that's really special, man. And I'm glad to hear that too. Like just another just more leaders out there, right? And getting to leaders raising leaders, and now getting to see what you're doing and all the social impacts that has. And we have to remember that. And I guess I tell myself this, or I say it, but I got to tell myself of just like all those young eyes, they're always watching you, right? And you got to remember that. And those leadership qualities, and like those little things, and being accountable, and being integral, right? And it might not seem like something big at the time, but all those little prying eyes are watching, and that's what's going to happen. And this is like, it's going to, down the line, we're going to find out. And I know a lot of issues right now are stemming from that. And I wish we could go back, but we can't. So now it's just really pick up from where we are, and carry on. But um, with all that being said, now I'm going to kind of bag that one a little bit, but just going a little bit more deeper on the Indigenous side with um, just culture and like daily practices, and what that even looks like for you. I know it's great with your company Warmco, and having that collection, like even just Musqua, and going back to the bear, and going back to those Indigenous ways. But yourself personally, is there any practices during the day, or anything personal that you do?
Yeah, and in terms of daily practice, I'd say the big and practice in general, I would say spirituality, where I feel like that's the biggest thing, and something that seems to play a larger role as I get older, and just something that I prioritize more and more is that spiritual, where, you know, um, and I mean, it just means so many different things, but for me, when I look at, the creator, when I look at God, and for me, everybody else has their own journey and spiritual journey, but for me, I feel like I've seen and observed irrefutable proof that God exists, that, that there is something bigger to us than that, and I think that that's like the biggest thing, um, in my life in the last, like, couple of years, and in knowing that all of this, that we're created, that the land is created, that everything around us is, I feel like it makes you have a bit more of an appreciation and understanding for those things, and um is because like when you look at it that way, then everything is like artwork where it's not random. And I guess to maybe explain what I mean is like when you look at things like evolution and the Big Bang and things that like science is, you know, trying to describe and often fails to describe, that makes it kind of seem impersonal and almost like random chance, where it's like, okay, like we had a bottle shaken up here and everything just kind of exploded everywhere and we're part of that small speck of an explosion. You know, there's no real spiritual or story, or like there's no emotion behind that. It's, you know, and so when I look at like creation and everything like that, like we were all created, we were all pieces of art, where the land is art around us. And like there's a respect that you have for that. Like, you know, a piece of like art hanging up in a museum, like that's something that we look at in awe and in reverence because of that art and because of the artist that rendered it. And so that's kind of how I view us. That's kind of how I view like the earth and the lands around us, the people around us. And um yeah, so I would say that those are like the biggest, you know, shaping ideologies as I look to like my indigenous roots. Because and you know, I might be a little bit biased, but I think that, you know, indigenous peoples and, you know, nobody was able to curate and take care and respect the land quite like indigenous peoples. And again, you know, I think worldwide, like I think that that's something where, you know, someone who might not even have that much of a depth of knowledge about um, indigenous people, they might know that, like that's something that like they just, you know, have been able to pick up. And one of, I think, the most um, I guess, strongest things about, you know, us as people is that, you know, we understood that the land is something that is created for us. We understood that even like the animals, the other people around us are all created too, and it was up to, you know, almost like we were the original curators. And so I think that that's, you know, when I look at those two things and combine those two things, I would say those are, you know, far and above the two biggest spiritual shaping ideologies in my life.
Oh, dude, that's great to hear. And I'm really yeah, it's interesting when you put it in that perspective or through that lens of everything's art. It really makes you take it in a little differently, right? And even last week I was out most of the week out back on a farm, and we are outside a lot. I was still working, but I was just doing a little bit with family and visiting and stuff, and it was just nice to get out in the bush even and just to appreciate everything, right? And instead of being
Hmm.
stuck in the city, and it really is a good way to get back out. And even the week before that, I was at a powwow, which was really great, and the cultural days. It was just nice and makes you stop and think and just stop and try to take it all in and enjoy the moment and live in the present too, which is a really important factor to all of that. And when you're enjoying the life and enjoying the outdoors and enjoying just the world, everything else kind of, the noise kind of goes away in my head anyway, and don't have to sit there and look at my phone or try to find somewhere else to be. It's just like living in that moment, enjoying
Hmm.
the now, and it really puts a lot of anxiety and that pit of the stomach kind of goes away, right? And it just feels good to be in there. So
And
thanks for
how many
bringing that
things
up.
do we have in our world now that almost try and make us actively ignore that, right? Where like we all have a part in us that gets that same relaxed, you know, at peace feeling when we're in nature. When and how many things now where it's just like it's almost distracts you or makes you ignore those things because, like, you know, we all live inside. We live, you know, a lot of us who are living in cities, which are the, you know, the most popular place to live. That's why people are there, that like all distract you away from that. So like, I think that, yeah, that's, I think your point right there is something that I resonate completely with. And I really cherish the opportunities where I'm able to just get out to the mountains by myself some days, just go by myself, sit, and then lucky the fact that we even that have the mountains so close by that I'm able to even do that is something that's so, like, I guess, powerful and something that I don't take for granted, because there is true healing in nature. I think we're meant to. And when we even like again, my psychology background, like we are taught literally that one of an active ingredients that goes against depressive thoughts and moods and disorders is being outdoors, being outside and in nature. So it's not just like something where, some people feel like, yeah, okay, it's healing and it's trendy. No, this stuff is actually good for us. It's good for our well-being. It's good for us physically and emotionally, psychologically, all these things. Like, we it's because of all the things that are designed to distract us and make us ignore those parts. Like, it's up to us to be proactive for our own health and wellness, and spend times, because yeah, like it's beautiful, man. Like 35 minutes from my door take you to a waterfall, and like I think that just sitting on the edge of that rock by that waterfall is like, ah, it's not much like it.
Yeah, you nailed it, man. And I'm big on that. Any excuse to get outside. And now I live vicariously through my boys, and with Lennox especially, that I make it a real point to get him out and do different things. And I'm not, don't get me wrong, like not naive. Like, he has a computer, he plays games, he plays his Roblox, and does all this other stuff by all means. But we get out as much as possible, and really a lot of hunting, fishing. He's really into archery as well, so we do a lot of archery and just all these different things. And yeah, I just noticed such a big difference even in his demeanor for maybe stuck in the house for a couple days or whatever that looks like, and weather's bad and he's playing games all day or looking at a screen, compared to how he acts after a day of being outside doing different activities. It's just completely different demeanor, and you're not sitting there fighting him or saying no all the time or hearing whining and stuff, right? It's just a calmness, and it's really
Mm,
special, and it really shines through with the young ones. And I really wish that there was more people out there doing that. But again, can only take care of myself and be that leader, and hopefully he carries it on with his kids, and so on and so on. But um, I guess with all of that being said, and especially the Indigenous side, is there anything that you see, especially like your ground roots? You're out there, you're on the road, you're on the streets, you're in a lot of those markets, like especially for any Indigenous folks that are like wanting to become entrepreneurs or wanting something bigger for their life or like dreaming of something. Is there, do you see a lot of opportunities out there? And like, what would be maybe even just one or two kind of canned pieces of advice now that you kind of been through the fire and you're still in the fire, but that that can get some light on the other end of that?
yeah, and I think that honestly, opportunities are endless, and I think that if you got to take a look and see what opportunities are there, and you got to assess what you see as well, because if you're looking for opportunities and you're finding that it's really hard, like you cannot find any opportunities, or they're very few and far between, I think that that's more of a reflection of how you're feeling, because everybody's had a bad day, and when you have a bad day, it's really really hard to see what opportunities are there. But and conversely, like if you're in a good mood, it's like how easy is it to sometimes get on some momentum and start finding more opportunities and having more success, and just kind of like taking all these steps that end up doing something good. It's the exact same thing when you're in a bad mood and it's like, okay, well, I don't have any opportunities here. It's like, no, you do. And my friend, you need to like just work on and help and heal yourself so that you can get to a place that maybe you adjust your view, and then that's where the opportunities are. Um, so I'd say that, yeah, finding that opportunity, um, and seeing if you're even able to see all of the opportunities is a big thing, because if you can't see them, it doesn't mean that they're not there. Like, I can tell you that there's endless opportunities. There's opportunities out there for everyone. There's more than enough to go around. It's just the people that are willing to prioritize their health and them as individuals and as human beings that are going to be able to find those opportunities. Um, and that would be like the first thing. And the second thing I would say is that there are things that fire up every single person on this planet. Like, there's not somebody who's just totally devoid of emotion, outside of maybe like Kawhi Leonard as a basketball player. But everybody else has emotion, and we got lots of it, and we have passion. We have things that fire us up, that make us feel good. And I think that if you can find some things and identify like what your passion is and what gets you fired up, um, go with it. Like, and don't, without looking at anything other than just what it feels like in here and in here. Like, that's the only two things that matter. And so I think that some people too are afraid to you know take up some opportunities that they know are there, because there's an opportunity in front of them. They're passionate about it, they love it, but they don't take it because they're scared of what someone might think of them, or they're scared of failing at it, or they're scared, like of these things that kind of cast doubt and insecurity. I think that those are the things that are, as much as, because everybody has those, but and as much as those thoughts can come up, I think that, you know choosing to acknowledge that they're there, of being like, yeah, okay, I could fail at this, or yeah, okay, somebody might think different of me, they might think weird of me, whatever, but I'm passionate enough. This is something that fuels me and fires me up, and I'm going to take this opportunity here. And I'm probably just like projecting my own self onto that, that question, because, I feel like with every single step that I take, I have to, like, you know, not just ignore, but acknowledge these doubts, insecurities, these fears, whatever they are. I acknowledge that they're there. I'm not going to just ignore and pretend that they're not existing. But I have to make the conscious choice of being like, yeah, they're there, but I'm going to keep going, kind of thing. And so I think it's coupling the opportunities with a passion, with the resilience that it doesn't matter what anybody else says, does, or thinks. It matters, like it matters for you. Like it's a very hard lesson, I think, and takes years of learning for people that, I think that people don't get there until they're like 40 or 50, where they're like, you know what, I don't I don't care at all what anybody else thinks anymore. Like it doesn't matter to me. And I guess it kind of starts in, like, as a school age child, but then we go along this gradient of finally realizing, you know what, the only thing that matters right now is me and the people that I love. So I guess all of, like, that long-winded answer to say is, you know, search for you, search for the authentic you, and search for the passionate you. And I'm telling you right now, there will be boundless opportunities for you.
Wow, man. I echo that all. That is beautiful. That's a great way to put that. And no, I can listen to that all day. Don't worry about the long-winded, buddy. Um, so what's the future hold? What do you got your sights set on, or what does the next I don't know what we'll call it, next few years anyway? Do you got any plans with Warm, or is there are you pivoting somewhere other directions, or what's without anything too top secret, and we'll keep it light.
Yeah. Yeah, no, no worries. Yeah, but I got big plans, and big plans require big work, and that's exactly what I'm just going to be trying to do, right? I'm like, I love sitting out there outside in my laptop and just trying to crush out as much work as I can. I love going to the markets. I love, like, doing all of these different things, but I want to be able to just keep on doing work in order to grow this thing that I've created and started, while also, being 100% behind the mission. Anytime somebody doesn't have a winter coat and needs one, and they have one, I feel like that's something where, like, that's my hill. Like, that's my hill that I can sit on and be like, okay, we did it. Like, and as a community, we did it. And so, that's one of the things that I think is such a powerful message behind the coats that we offer as well, is like, I make sure that every single customer that buys a coat, I make sure that they know, like, hey, like, every single day that you zip your jacket up, message. So in terms of, like, what we got coming up, like, our presence is going to be bigger. Like, I'm in talks of digital scaling to get this onto, like, a national scale. There's consultations from, agencies down at universities that are helping out, and they're saying, like, hey, like, this can be a national brand. You just got to make the right moves. And so, like, hearing those kind of affirmations, it's like, I'd be lying if I said I didn't need affirmations, because I know that this is going to work. I know that this is going to succeed, but, like, if I'm being honest with myself, I'm not. Like, I do need people to be like, hey, like, this is something that can work, or else, it gets a little bit more difficult for me. But so I've had these affirmations from, like, news outlets, from like marketing consultants, and all these things, and it's like, okay, yeah, like, the affirmations are there. Now it's up to me to just get my boots on the ground and work, baby. Like, let's get this work done. So, like, there's lots of big things, national brand, and something, and also increasing the reach of our coats, where I want to have coats that are good for kids. I want to have like different, inclusion models and lines for coats as well. Like I want the whole grand scale where, you know, I'm still working with the confines of like the current situation, and I think, doing a great job. But I got way bigger dreams and a way bigger paradigm that I want to make happen, and that paradigm is of, enjoy the ride. My enjoying the ride is like taking this baby far.
I love it. I love your I can feel your energy right now, and it's awesome, man. I love this. I love it. I need it. I need it. I got a big day ahead of me still, so this is amazing. With all that being said, so how can people find you? How can people get in touch with you? How can people jump on board and help keep pushing this thing through?
Yeah, so we're on every major social media platform: TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're at Warm Social Co. and at warm.coats. So that's our social media, and our website is loveiswarm.org. You can get anything. We deliver Canada wide. So that's our main platform there for getting coats to people all across the country, as well as the hoodies and the shirts. And something that I was saying earlier too in another meeting, tension. Like the mission of, like, I think that everybody inherently has something inside them that's like, okay, like I do want to be a good person. I do want to do something good. So when we hear the mission, it's like, okay, yeah, let's rally together. Let's bring the strength of the community behind us so that we can address this problem of people not being able to survive winter. So that's one. That's our main thing that we want to do, is we want to solve this problem, and we know that people at their core are good human beings and want to help as well. And so good quality, like things that people love. So, and that's going to be the thing that keeps people reordering, coming back, and being customers for life. That's something that I've heard, a few times from some people that have bought stuff from us. It's like, I'm a customer for life because, like there's no, it's a win-win. Like, we're addressing a real problem, and I absolutely love what I get. So like our polar fleece hoodies, they're like a light winter coat. Like they're so warm, like you will not need anything else in, where you're living and how cold it's getting. But the point is, they're super warm. Like so I had somebody who ordered from us, delivered, they got their hoodie, and immediately upon receiving that hoodie, ordered two more. They're like, this is like, I need more. Like, this is incredible stuff. So, um, like down to the merino wool shirts, and of course the coats themselves, they're going to be something that you genuinely love, because we know that, that like having a mission while not having something good behind, just, it ain't for me. Like, I love the mission, and I might buy something else, but I don't really like it. Like, no, we want to provide really high quality, high end stuff so that people are passionate about it, and they're passionate not just about one thing but about two things, because they're helping out, being a force in the community while also getting something that they love. And there's no, it's a win-win.
Absolutely, man. Well, Jordan, man, I love talking to you. I love your energy, and I need more of this in my life. So I think we'll have to do an update maybe in the spring on how this winter
For
went
sure.
and how things were looking. But I really appreciate your time, and I love your mission. I love everything you're going with, and yeah, man, just keep working.
Appreciate it. Again, thank you so much for having me on, Michael. I appreciate the opportunity. It's been a treat talking to you. I think, it's sometimes hard to pick up energy when you're over like a video call, but like I pick up your energy. I know I'd get along with you great. And, I'm grateful for what you're doing here, and for getting out some of the good messages out here. And I hope that, I was able to contribute something that was worthwhile. But either way, I'm appreciative of you having me on here, brother. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.